talk to these four gentlemen that, I at least find lot of inspiration I've drawn from their journeys. I've been researching about you guys for a couple of days, just so that I can ask appropriate questions. And the more I read about them, the more I kind of researched, I'm more intrigued to get answers for a lot of questions that I always had in my mind. Okay, before I start, because this particular topic is entrepreneurship, and somewhere within us, at least within me, I always, feel that maybe one day I'll also have my company. I'll make a product. I'll also become, Elon Musk someday. Like that. We all have dreams, big dreams. Some pursue, some succeed, and become examples for us, and then we can, they can guide us, lead us to what we want to achieve. And then, some of us are sitting here to get that inspiration and become that next gen from them. Before I proceed, there's something that I want to start with. I'll take 2 minutes to do that. With entrepreneurship, if I may stand for this one, a lot of you folks know that I love to read Hindi poetry. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, this is what I always say. My husband is an entrepreneur too, so I know how hard their journeys are. Okay, it may look golden from the top, but how it is. And based on that, a very famous poem I wanted to recite very quickly, few lines of it, and then we'll dive into their introductions, and then a follow-up question based on the poem itself. Okay? लहरों से डरकर नौका पार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वालों की कभी हार नहीं होती। असफलता एक चुनौती है, मेहनत भी एक चुनौती है, इसे स्वीकार करो। क्या कमी रह गई देखो और सुधार करो। जब तक ना सफल हो नींद चैन को त्यागो तुम, संघर्ष का मैदान छोड़कर कभी मत भागो तुम। बिना मेहनत किए कभी जय जयकार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वालों की कभी हार नहीं होती। With that, thank you so much. With that, I want the esteemed panel to introduce them, and with thought of how did you guys thought of becoming an entrepreneur? आपकी कोशिश कहाँ से शुरू हुई? आपकी सफलता हम सब देख रहे हैं, but where did your journey started? How did this thought come to your mind that this is what you want to pursue in your life?
I'll start. So hello everyone, my name is Ankit Arora. I'm founder of Brisk Minds and Salesforce MVP. Speaker at a lot of events, including Dreamforce. I'm also group leader there back in Jaipur. So my team is currently right now 250. We are SI, PDU and MSP partners. My journey started long back in 2008, and it's a little interesting because my educational background was very bad, and it was that bad that no company wanted me to sit in their aptitude test. They didn't want to hire me. So that is where fortunately I got an opportunity back in Jaipur itself in one company. I used to work there for free, let's say 8 to 10 months, and then they thought, okay, let's start the salary and something. So the first check was very, gave that feeling that I can do something for my family now. So that is where I thought, there are multiple talent which doesn't have that great educational background, but they are super technical. They know how to code. They can be, well trained in that manner that they can do very well in their journeys. So that is the thought where I thought that I should start my own company. And started with 2 developers in start. Now we are 200.
Amazing, amazing.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Alright. I dropped out of school for a year, started my first business as a pioneer in the world of digital imaging and publishing when it was unheard of. I wrote a TEDx to Apple when people had not heard of Apple, and there was no fax machines invented, and I created some very innovative products and solutions. Then I joined college again, and then I went to New York for a week. I just spent 1 week with my guru, and that was it. And then I also set up an office in Africa. By the time I was in the first year of college, I think, I forget. One in India, And now, by now I've also obviously set up about 3 businesses. Each one of them have been very innovative, game-changing, massive impact. And then a lot of companies started to come to me, so I consulted and helped launch multi-billion-dollar products at Apple, Adobe, Google, was part of the leadership team within a Google project on health AI recently. And we did a lot of interesting work. And I just kind of moved out. And now I'm handling 3 more startups. But I think what you need to learn is that I've mentored over 300 startups in India so far in the last 9 years, single-handedly. I've taken quite a few of them to the #1 on the Play Store. In fact, I did one in EdTech, which beat Duolingo as well. We went to #1. And I worked in about 20 verticals, you name it, from telecom to travel to health to the works. I've also helped create enterprise products and solutions. And at the union of business, marketing, strategy, design, entrepreneurship, I work in these 5-6 places all the time. The governments also come to me for advice and for leading the teams. And I've also worked with very large enterprises. So I come with a plus. I forgot to mention that I also work with academia a lot. I set up the first course in design at NIFT. So I would not say that this is entrepreneurship and this is not. Let's all of us understand one thing. All of us, each one of us, is one. I have yet to see someone who is not an entrepreneur. This gentleman who's taking our photographs is an entrepreneur too. Can we have a round of applause for him? Thank you.
Thank you. So now I don't know what to speak about. Like great people like here. Anyways, I am CEO and founder of Enzigma as well as Orectic. Enzigma is a ISV and consulting partner with Salesforce. We started in 2002 and we have been working on Salesforce since 2005. In fact, I was one of the very first developer to work on Apex and even certified developer. As well as we were the first company to launch a product on App Exchange from India, all FTP attachments. And the Orectic, thank you. And on Orectic is a recently formed company, it's a startup, and we are into low-code technology products, mainly around Salesforce, how to improve your user experience with Salesforce. So I'll keep it short and I'll pass it on to him.
Wonderful. Naveen sir.
Hi, good evening. My name is Naveen Kaprani. I'm the founder CEO at SGIT Services. We are a Salesforce partner, like everybody else, based in Noida. My background is that I started as a developer many years back. And then I had 15 years experience, more than 15 years experience before I started this venture in 2010. I was working in large MNCs, I was in the US for some time and things like that. Basically, my driver was that in our jobs, often we don't get enough growth, we are stuck somewhere. So instead of like what we do, what most of us do is we start criticizing, we get into a negative mindset. So my philosophy is that instead of criticizing the management or your circumstances, try to fix it, try to change things. So that I never had a plan of becoming an entrepreneur or starting a company. Mine was like, I thought that, okay, I think I can do better than what I'm doing right now. So that was my motivation. And I started in 2000. One thing is, before I started the company, I did not know Salesforce. This is a strange thing. I was like managing teams in Java and healthcare and other technologies. So as I started my company, I started learning Salesforce. There was no trailhead. I started learning. I was like a management position before that. So I started coding. I started delivering a few projects on my own when I started. And then now over the years, we've grown. We have about 130 odd people. We have an office in Noida and clients across the globe.
Say that now even like all of you had different paths, initial lives were very different, but eventually, you all had an entrepreneur mindset, or at least you developed it in the journey, and so you're sitting here and inspiring us. With that, because you all had diverse kind of experience before you started your companies. I've generally found entrepreneurs struggle with finances a lot, basically when they come from a technical background. So this question is coming from the community and not me. So a lot of aspiring, talent who's sitting there starting their own companies, they're technically excellent, fabulous they are. However, when it comes to money, when it comes to financial literacy, they really struggle in the initial days. How was it for you, and how did you guys overcome that?
See, when we talk about service-based company, it's a different story. When we talk about the product-based company, it's a whole different story. So when we are concerned about the finances, if you're not running a product-based company and you wanted to start a service-based company or a consulting-based company, I think it's pretty easy. You don't need money for that. It's just your own laptop, a place to sit and start working. And by the revenues that you get out of it, you can do a lot more things. But when it comes to product, it's a totally different chapter. So that is what and just in case in any channel which you want to do anything, be very sure that you are fully aligned with the compliances, because that is something which in the end becomes a very big problem.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think when it comes to entrepreneurship and finance, there is something to be understood, and I'm not speaking as me, but as all the entrepreneurs I've worked with through my life. People understand finance as management of wealth. Entrepreneurship is not management of wealth or financial discipline. It is the ability, the art of creating wealth out of thin air when it does not exist. So what happens is that you have to be a gambler. You have to be a risk taker. So understand something, if you're an entrepreneur, even if you're Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, you are willingly entering financial chaos. Please, let's be clear. Let's wake up and have coffee on this. What you need for entrepreneurship is not technical skill or financial discipline. What you need is jigara. Got it? Entrepreneurship is an act of courage. It's an act of saying, I am restless with what the world is. I'm going to change it. I'm going to take a risk. So screw it. Here I go. I'm going to throw everything under the bus and I'm going to succeed. If you have that, you are going to succeed. Not only are you going to make money for yourself, you're going to bring wealth to the households of thousands of people who are touched by your product. So go for it.
Okay, so my take is little different. So like Ankit said, yes, service business and product is totally different. But I'm from old school on the services especially, so I believe in savings and building your wealth over the time. It's like risk taking. I've seen companies fail. One of our clients is like WeWork, and we all know what happened with WeWork. So clearly, I don't take risk like that. You have to take calculated risk. So there's a difference between just risk and calculated risk. So yes, you have to take calculated risk. But always important is like when you are spending money, just see what you are making. Okay, so it's very important to balance it out as an entrepreneur. So that's my take. Thank you.
Just kind of reiterating that, make sure that your revenues are more than your expenses. Always have a cash flow of at least 3 months with you. You never know, payment might get delayed, a contract might get cancelled. You're a small business, you're not like a huge corporate which can get loans easily. So better to play it safe. Have enough reserves in your bank for a bad day. That is one, and also hire a professional CA early on, so that they can make sure that you are complying with all the legal things. So you're not a CA, you're not a trained financial expert. So early on in your journey, make sure you have somebody available who's a professional.
Absolutely, yes. So you spoke about service industry, and we did that with you as well. Indian market, we all know, is very competitive. customers are competitive, money is always, employees, and nowadays we also hear that, a lot of demand in salary. Gaura's Kedrapal's post went viral a few days back when, a lot of money was asked from the entrepreneurs, and then, customers are not paying enough at the moment. So what do you think about that? In this era, how are you managing your resources in terms of human resources and also money? It comes back to money when you're running finances. So any take on that?
Relationship between employer and employee is little complicated, and being as an employer, I don't want to comment very straight onto it. But yeah, you need couple of people to be in your journey alongside. So you have to be a little deliberate on that side, and the book should be open to them, or you can share some stocks, ESOPs, or if they are aware that what kind of profits company is making and what they are getting out of it, that makes your life pretty easy. You don't need everybody to be there, but of course, a couple of them should be alongside with you. So that is where my top 5 people have received XUV 700 very recently. So that is kind of investment which you have to make. So
team matters. Your core people matters. So.
Right, so when it comes to managing resource, people and finance, we have a very simple formula. It's oxygen and rocket fuel, right? Oxygen is money, people are rocket fuel. This is what you see in the book, what is it, Blitzscaling, which I just recently read. And Peter Thiel also talks about this. I think the first thing to understand is that you need to create a belief system in the organization where you have people who believe what you believe. That is the most important thing. We think that money is everything when we hire people, but that's why startups have a big challenge hiring people. Because you can't compete with enterprise and corporates. And I've seen that problem everywhere. Every startup says, what do I do with hiring? What do I do with money? And with money crunch. There is only one thing. First, find out what is your cause. What is your mission? What is your why? Answer that. Then fire the people who don't belong in that mission. Fire the clients who don't bring you that vision. Getting a sale may not be a sign of success if you got the wrong kind of client. So you have to know the art of money for me has been very simple. It has always been, does money bring prosperity? And I have asked this question to myself and to the people I pay and to my clients and their clients. If I can say it in Hindi, तुम कमा क्या रहे हो? पैसे कमा रहे हो या चैन कमा रहे हो या बेचैनी कमा रहे हो? And if you discover that you are earning बेचैनी means restlessness, ashanti, right? Then you not understood money. Money should bring you chan. So even if it is less and it brings you chan, you're better off than earning more and having a life of suffering. And I've noticed when people align themselves to money on this principle, they are very happy to work for less because their life is more nourishing, their work is more productive, and the work you do will be profitable. So please, it is an alignment game that you need to play. That's how I've rolled with it, and it has always worked with us.
So my take, first of all, first question was like working with the clients, like how it is difficult. So I work with clients in India and US. There's a huge difference between the way it works, right? And I'll bring it down to like 2 points which I would like to pass on to you all. One is discipline and second is ethics. This is very two important thing, at least for me. So when I work with the Indian client, this is what has happened. Like very, very big companies, they owe us money and they'll say, I'll pay you tomorrow, they'll take 6 months away. And literally I had to kind of hold up the services, like unless you pay, I'm not going to give further services. That's the attitude or ethics we have in India, unfortunately. And same thing I have noticed in US, like there's a client and we just say it's like your payment is owed, it was due yesterday and you're not paid, and they say sorry, I'm so sorry, I'll make the payment right away, and within 2 days you get the payment. So this is like a huge stark difference between working with Indian clients and US clients. Now, one thing I would like to say, this experience of my Indian client was like many years ago, about 10, 15 years ago. It might have changed, but recently I've not worked with any Indian clients, so don't take me for that. So that's first point. Second is like Ankit said, yes, it's always a complex relationship with the, your employee and employer. One thing which has worked great for us, even like you, I will not say I was a backbencher, but I was in 10th, I would like 60%, 12th was like 80%, and that's how you were judged, right? How intelligent you are, right? So I was not good that way. But I was the only person in my engineering college which was clear throughout all the subjects. So if you see, there is a stark difference between your studies like 10th, 12th versus engineering. Coming back to that, what I learned and did is, like even I got not selected for 16 companies. First few companies did not let me sit for the test and all, thanks. But luckily I found some company finally. What I learned and what I did for that particular payment thing, pretty much 95% of the people we hire are freshers. Okay, so what we do is we go to tier 2, tier 3 cities and find the talent there. They might not be able to speak well, but at least they can get things done. That's how I've been running business till date. It might change, but that's what has worked for me. Hire freshers, train them. Okay, they'll work for you at 2-3 years, and then they'll go away. Be ready for that. And that's how I've been maintaining that ecosystem very well. If someone says I have an offer of this much money, I don't even negotiate. I say, okay, if you have an offer, go. And so you made up your mind to go, let's go. If someone comes to me, say I have this financial problem or that financial problem, I'll try my best to solve it. Like let's say, like you have to do something for them to retain them. But it's not something like will match whatever you get in the market. That's a very bad practice in the industry today. That anyone comes with a, I'm getting this offer, and HR says, okay, we'll have to match it, otherwise they'll go. Unfortunately, that's a bad practice, and my opinion is not to do that. Thank you.
My view is that, like my philosophy is that we treat like our employees and customers in a with trust, honesty, with being very transparent, and that kind of builds a long-term relationship. So we build long-term relationship with our employees, we build long-term relationship with our customers. Most of our customers have been there with us for 5+ years, and many of our employees are there for 7 years, 8 years. We had a couple of employees who completed 10 years. We are obviously a services company. We are not the highest pay masters. So why do people stick around for such a long time? Because they like the flexibility, they like the culture, they like the type of work, and then they stick around. Obviously, there will be a vast majority of people who will jump every 2 years. They'll get some 30%, 50% hike. So you try to retain them, but then you let them go. But there will be sufficient mass which are there, which like the culture, which like the transparency, and then they will stick with you. And that is more than enough.
Wonderful. And before we proceed, I would just say, I'm literally sitting on this chair talking to you guys. It's such a positive energy. I felt like an entrepreneur for a second. And when Himanshu and you were talking, I was like, making a decision in my head. If my employee wants to go, what will I do? If I want to, if I have to hire, which city will I go? So amazing, great insights there. To continue with that, because there are Indian clients, there are global clients, right? And everybody would love to work with the global clients. As I said, it's such a positive scenario, and your money flows, you have more opportunities out there. How can an Indian entrepreneur leverage their connections, or what other skills they would require? What should they do exactly to gather or get projects from outside India?
It's again no rocket science. How you get business inside India is exactly the same as you get in US or any other region. It's just the process. We should know that, if you are into consulting business, what kind of account executives or FLMs or let's say PAMs you need to be in touch with, what kind of verticals you work on, where your unique expertise or where you are positioning yourself. If you know that, region is no big problem until unless you are working in Japan or China because they talk in their own language. So, but there are people available who can talk in multi languages, so that's not, again not a problem. Um, but yeah, network with everybody is really important. Going in meetings like such, and there are other world tours and all those where you have to be there, talk to other people. Is how you can get exposure of getting connected with those people who can get business for you. And in Salesforce, there are sourced and non-sourced deals. So basically, how you position again yourself there is important for you.
Yeah, so for the first 10 years of my work, my clients were only German, French, Australian, Japanese, and African. And later I worked with the American MNCs in building these global products. And recently I worked with a Fortune 40 company where we have to build a product for both the West and the Chinese markets, which are very opposite. So please, let me give you 3 very important tips for you to be able to crack open any market, and do not be obsessed like most IT companies are towards the English-speaking markets alone. In fact, the other markets are equally large. What is the game? There is something called culture mapping. If you can, please read up a book or 2 on this term culture mapping. Second, what you need to do, what you rightly said, you have to be close to the customer. So, as an entrepreneur, get on that plane, fly down, and be close to your customers and attend the events in that region. One thing that nobody leverages is if you're an Indian citizen, make it a point to go to the Indian embassy and ask them to help you network. Also for that country, there will be, for example, a Chamber of Commerce or a trade organization. Like I have recently launched a project in Vietnam. I forgot to mention that as well. So we work very closely with the Indo-Vietnamese chambers, right? So also make it a point to be active in these communities, all right? As a person, apart from in the technology world, because you tend to work in the technology world and meet only other people. Good for hiring and networking. But if you want business, you have to step out of this zone and go to where your customer is abroad. And you need, Indian minds are noticed, are very open with technology, but very closed with culture. So you need to open your mind up to understand the subtle nuances between one culture and the other. So for me, it was very interesting that my first half meeting was with the Germans, second half with French, and they were totally opposites. All the next year Australians. So you need to learn how to map what works with one, which does not work with the other. This global thinking is what we need in India now to become world leaders in culture and innovation in the business world. So best of luck to everybody.
So other aspect I would talk about is actually how to win the client, and like it says global as well as Indian is the same. There are 2 important things: trust and ownership. So trust is what you need to win out the client so that they work with you, and ownership is like they will see if you are taking the full ownership of your work, what you are doing for them, they will be with you forever. Like Navin said, so I have long-term customers, just like Navin said. It's the same reason. So these are 2 very important skills you'll have to develop. Like you have to, even when I worked as an employee, I never thought it's the company, it's my company. That's how I will work. And 2 companies I worked for before I started my own company, and both companies I was very close to the boss, and I would like let them do anything. It's like actually my second boss decided not to pay for 6 months, or sorry, 3 months to my first boss. That was my intercompany transfer kind of thing. So that time I stood up, said, you don't have to talk to each other. It's my project. I'll take care of it, and I'll get the money. Okay, and that's how my second boss trusted me, and he helped me to start the Sigma. So that's how it goes. So trust and ownership, very important.
Just one last add-on. In addition to culture, the other critical thing sometimes we miss is that as techies, we need to focus more on the business domain knowledge. If we can speak the customer language, then half our job is done. If we can understand this problem, suggest him a solution in the first call, then the chances of closing the business just goes up. So it's very critical.
One last thing. anything that you want to tell today to these guys who want to turn into entrepreneur? And as you said, each one of us is an entrepreneur at the end of the day. So any last thoughts that you want to add before we close this conversation?
If you want peaceful sleep in the night, don't go for it. And if you can sacrifice that, it's great.
Yeah, this is not the exact right form, but one of the things I want to appeal to the masses, especially to our Indian masses. It's about education, it's not about you, but you have come from the same education system. Unfortunately, our education system is very, very old and not so great. There are very few colleges where people learn practically doing something. Okay, so I would say 95% of the colleges, they don't do it, and then we blame there are only few percentage of the employees which are employable. Okay, so what you can take forward is like when you do anything, do learn practically, not just by studying like or taking the videos or anything. Like make applications. This will also help you through your entrepreneurial journey also. But also that is how you learn the most. And if you can impart this to other students who are learning today, that would be great.
Just a couple of quick comments. One is entrepreneurship is more like a marathon and not a sprint. So it's a long-term journey. Anything you do, any decisions you make, you have to think long-term. Second is, I just quote probably the greatest entrepreneur, stay hungry, stay foolish. So basically, you are ambitious, you want to do more, and stay foolish means you are eager to learn. So that's from Steve Jobs' quote that you always have to keep in mind at the back of our head.
Yeah, wonderful. Finally, I have two things to add here, which is probably a big show. One of the things I've noticed with entrepreneurs is that they're obsessed with success. If you want to be successful, I feel you should be obsessed with failure. Make failure your friend. So I use a framework from the US Army in World War II. It's called AAR. It's used in my team all the time. After action review. You walk into a battle. So you ask yourself, okay, what worked? What were you expecting? What actually happened? What could be improved? My teams in all the different projects use AAR all the time. And every single day, imagine this, your best friend is failure. Ask yourself, today what did I fail on? If you make it a point that for 365 days, I failed, I learned, I failed, I learned, 365 days. My friends, you are going to succeed. So just do that. That's the first thing. The second thing, this whole thing about going abroad, markets are saturated right now, industries are turmoil and going down. The real opportunity, your engineers also look at Beckon, look at ONDC, look at ONS, look at ULI, look at all these things happening in India and pricing open monopolies and making open markets. Take a look at the massive opportunities available for design and development for Bharat versus the world. You are going to rock it because UPI was made for Bharat and is now topping the world. So be that entrepreneur who made for Bharat and took it to the world because Bharat is the village of the world. Just remember this too. And third, what I want you to remember is bring design at the core of what you do, not development. You have to understand design. Did you know that Salesforce, the founder of Salesforce, was personally mentored by Steve Jobs, which is why it is where it is today. Okay, this is a design organization. So make sure you ask yourself, what are you doing in terms of design thinking and innovation? And I was speaking with Bishop and said, how can we have an event when we do not talk about design as the core metrics of success and entrepreneurship? Those are your three takes. Go for it. Thanks.
Just a little addition when he took a word named success. Basically, it's different for everybody, so don't look up. I mean, you should look up at people just to get inspired, but don't look up to people, to reach that certain level. Because success for some people is money, for some is traveling, for some it's mental peace. It's totally different. So don't run on in that rat race.
Write your own definition of success. So thank you so much. With that, we'll close this conversation. It was really nice